to at Kabbalat Shabbat, but we're introducing a new melody tonight. A little over a year ago, composer and songwriter Noah Aronson reached out to 18 congregations in the spirit of it being 2018, a good number for the Jews. He reached out to 18 congregations to compose new songs for those congregations. And he reached out to us, and I thought this is a perfect time to commission a new work in honor of our beloved Rabbi Shanks. And I told her we were doing this, and we said, what text should we give him? He said, you tell me what you want me to write. And the first thing that Rabbi Shanks says was she wanted it to be upbeat and rousing. So we felt really good about that. And when we thought about the text, we gave him the very same text that we had given the stained glass artist who designed our stained glass. From the prophet, always a good guess. Chapter 2, verses 2 through 5. And what he chose was the text Ki Mitzion, text that we find in the Torah service. From Zion came Torah. And tonight we're going to introduce this melody, and it incorporates both the Hebrew that's at the top right of the page, as well as the English in the center at the bottom of the page. This text says its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. We are so excited to premiere this piece tonight, and I hope you will raise your voices in song along with us.
Temple Bruchim Hachaim, welcome to all. Wow. I'm overwhelmed and so deeply grateful to join with all of my Isaiah colleagues and all of you, our community, for this special service. Thank you for being here tonight and through all the years that we've been blessed to live and share this community together. I want to give a special welcome to all our clergy colleagues, cantors and rabbis, clergy of other faiths, my dear friends and partners in this sacred work who are praying and celebrating with us tonight. And a special, special welcome to Jamie's mom, Estelle, making a very grand entrance, as she is wont to do. This has happened before in our lives. So we're going to give her all honor and wait till she gets, they're clapping for you, Estelle. It's quiet, but they're clapping. I love you too. And just in case there's someone here who I don't know, or you all don't know, or you don't know all of us, I'm Rabbi Judy Shanks.
I'm Rabbi Jay Levine.
I'm Rabbi Alyssa Miller.
Rabbi Shelley Waldenberg from way back when.
I'm Rabbi Nikki Greninger.
Cantor Korn.
Cantor Shannon Becker.
Like Red from way back.
To kindle our Shabbat candles, I invite my rabbinic colleagues who have been on this journey with me some from before rabbinical school, some during rabbinical school, and certainly until now. You have all been my teachers and my guides, my partners and my friends, and I thank you. I invite Rabbi Patricia Carlin Newman, Rabbi Noel Kahn, and Rabbi Maggie Winning to kindle our Shabbat lights, and I believe the prayer is on page 2.
I invite you to turn to page 4 where you'll find the words to Kiddush.
My
Jasmine Tarkoff, President of the congregation.
Shabbat Shalom. We all know that Rabbi Shanks has, among many other gifts, an amazing talent for storytelling. Her most memorable sermons often begin with a story that immediately captures our attention and then connects our hearts and our minds to the deeper messages. So I thought the best way to commemorate Rabbi Shanks' gift of modeling relational Judaism was to recount a famous Jewish folktale. Two brothers worked together on their farm. One was married and had a large family, the other was single. The brothers shared everything equally, produce and profit. One day, the single brother said to himself, "It's not right that we should share equally in the produce and profit. I'm alone and my needs are simple." So each night, the single brother secretly took a sack of grain from his bin and put it in his brother's bin. Little did the single brother know that at the very same time, his married brother was saying to himself that it is not right that I should share in the produce and profit equally. After all, I am married and I have a wife and children to look after me in the years to come. My brother has no one to care for him when he is old, and he will need a greater store of grain. So each night they secretly took grain from their own storeroom and put it into their brother's. Then, on one particularly dark night, the two brothers bumped into each other. In that instant, in the dark of night, the glow of brotherly love lit up the mountain sky as they each understood what the other had been doing. They embraced for a long time, expressing both their gratitude and their love for each other. Legend has it that God was so taken with their selfless love for each other that the site of their embrace would become the site for the temple. When we learn to love one another and place our relationships above all else, I believe we are fulfilling part of what Rabbi Shanks has been teaching us all these years. To honor and respect unity and diversity. To never set ourselves apart from our community. And to think about what we can accomplish together rather than being out for ourselves only. Rabbi Shanks, you consistently deliver these important and humbling messages in one-on-ones, in Torah study and Musar, book groups, and of course, your emotionally touching sermons on Shabbat and the High Holy Days. One of your greatest successes has been in bringing everyday struggles into a spiritual context and making us feel we are never alone. I am sure so many of us here feel that at times you are speaking directly to each of us. This story of two brothers reminds me of what your rabbinate has signified all these years. Selfless giving, placing relationships above all else, and taking care of each other. This acknowledgement of Rabbi Shanks would be incomplete if we as a congregation did not acknowledge one of her and one of our most incredible treasures, her magnificent husband, Dr. Jamie Gracer. I don't know if you do show a present. Dr. Danny Gracer, a man of depth, many, many talents, and an incredibly genuine love for our congregation. Rabbi Shanks, what a blessing you have been to us, a loving servant of God, a spiritual leader of this congregation. You leave with us an amazing clergy team who have been guided and mentored by your wisdom and your love as our senior rabbi. We are forever grateful for all of your gifts.
We turn in our prayer books to page 20. We find the words to the Haggadah. As is our custom, we will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we reach the last verse, we will stand and together face the door to welcome in the Sabbath bride. I invite now the choir to come to the bima. Earlier this evening, we dedicated our congregation garden, Hamakom. And when the garden is fully complete and you're able to enter the garden and enter the labyrinth, you will find a plaque at the entrance. And the plaque has these words, Makom Shelibi Ohev, Sham Raglai Molichot Oti, the place, Makom, that my heart holds dear. Let my feet bring me there. And tonight the choir is going to sing those words inspired by the beauty of this garden, inspired by all of the teachings that allow us to get closer to our souls, closer to our spirit, and in turn, closer to God.
I'm called to speak of transition just before our call to worship. A moment of transition. What can I say as you approach your retirement? Welcome to the other side. It is at first uncharted territory, but if past is a predictor, having shared so much with you, in pulpit and in classroom, in our homes and with our families, in crisis and celebration, in joy and in sadness, I have no doubt you will find your way to exciting travel and extended time with children and grandchildren, to the book you have promised, as long as you can keep me out of it, to work for the justice you crave for our country and our world, and the Torah Lishma that awaits, study, reading, art, and music, just for the sheer joy of it. On this side, you will be missed, for you inspired our community with words and guided us with good deeds. You mentored wisely and counseled compassionately. To the other side, I welcome you that we may continue growing in friendship and in sharing all the good things that lie ahead. For you, dear friend, teacher, colleague, a prayer after the poet Rilke as you enter this new time. A prayer before prayer. And if this be considered an arrogant wish, God forgive me. But this is what I need to say. That you believe in all that has never yet been spoken. That you free all what awaits within you. So that what no one has dared wish for may for once spring clear without any contriving. May what you do flow from you as a river, no forcing and no holding back, the way it is with children. Then, in these swelling and ebbing currents of our lives, these deepening tides moving out, returning, you will sing to God as no one ever has, screaming through widening channels into an open sea. Leave behind worries and stress. Bring with you the warmth of your soul, the generosity of your heart, and the joy just to be. Come with God's blessing into this new stage. And let us say, Amen.
Invite everyone to please rise to the Baruch on page 28.
I'll never forget our conversation in Palm Springs during my last year of rabbinical school, when I ran into you at the Regional Rabbis Conference. 6 years before I had left Temple Isaiah to begin rabbinical school, after serving for 2 years as the assistant in the education department and the assistant youth director. As I said goodbye to this incredible community, I never thought I would serve as its rabbi until that day when you came up to me and said, "We're in the process of raising money and soon we'll announce that we're creating a third rabbinic position that focuses on teens and young families." It was my birthday that day, and you had just given me one of the greatest gifts of my life. Yes, I was excited that I had found my dream job, but more importantly, I would begin my rabbinic career working with a senior rabbi who values and honors the people around her. Rabbi Shanks never feels threatened by our successes or worried about us upstaging her. She wants each of us to shine, to be our best, and to shower us with the credit we deserve. Rabbi Shanks loves to be countercultural. When our society says compete and prove that you are better than others, she creates a team who lifts each other up, values each other's strengths, and supports each other's challenges. She has taught our staff and lay leadership the value of sacred partnership. When our teammates look great and feel honored for what they're doing, we too look great. Rabbi Shanks, out of love you have taught us Torah and Musar. Out of love you've cherished our unique gifts and challenged ourselves to be our truest selves. Out of love, you inspired the synagogue to push the boundaries and always strive to be better. Rabbi Shanks, thanks for being my teacher and mentor and friend, for believing in me and challenging me. I'm a better rabbi and a better person because of you. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel. I invite us in all of our uniqueness to rise together as one community, as together we sing the words of Shema on page 34.
Shema Yisrael.
Page 36.
Vashina
at a national convention for the Women's Rabbinic Network, the WRN. At the time, Rabbi Shanks was co-president of the WRN, and I was a rabbinic student. I remember Rabbi Shanks speaking on a panel with a few other colleagues, talking about what it was like to be a woman serving as a senior rabbi. Rabbi Shanks is one of our vatikot, one of the trailblazing women who became a rabbi when there were very, very few women rabbis. You faced daunting challenges and paved the way for all of us who became rabbis in the decades after you. I have always looked up to you, Rabbi Shanks, and I have learned a great deal from you about what it means to be a rabbi, how to choose words carefully, how to think through problems with love, compassion, and Jewish values, how to be patient, how to balance life and the rabbinate, how to have fun and bring humor to this work. In the song we are about to sing, Mi Chamocha, the community of Israel was led by Miriam. The sister of Moses and Aaron, Miriam is the first woman in the Torah to be called a prophet, and the first woman to lead the people of Israel. I admire Rabbi Shanks for many things, but over the years I have come to especially value the way in which she, like Miriam, is a strong leader who lifted up women's voices in our congregation, in the Reform movement, and in the rabbinate. Today, I serve as the coordinator of WRN for Northern California, and I hope to carry on Rabbi Shanks' legacy of lifting up the role of women in Judaism and advocating for gender equality in the rabbinate and in the Jewish community at large. Rabbi Shanks, like Miriam, you are our beloved leader and teacher. And even as you cross that Red Sea into the freedom of retirement, you will continue to lead us through the visions you've laid out, through the paths you've trailblazed, and you will continue to inspire us by your love of Judaism and of all people. We turn now to page 40 for Mi Chamocha.
Rabbi Shanks, you have such care for the craft of writing and for spiritual practice. I think both writing and spiritual practice can feel like they're never fully done, like there's always a more refined level to reach. You can see I have a lot of blue scribbles on my page. I think many of us here are in awe of the level that you've reached so far. Your writing and your spiritual teaching translate mystery and chaos into insight, healing, and joy for this community. A few short months into my tenure here, I gave a Devar Torah that consisted of a sequence of short poems called cinquains, which follow a pattern of syllables 2, 4, 6, 8, and 2 syllables per line. The smile on your face helped me feel like I had a place here, like I didn't just have a supervisor, but a true mentor. So here are a few more humble cinquains, reflections of a few aspects of your rabbinate. On writing, you've showed me that first drafts have holy potential if we accept the challenge to write more. On poetry, prayer without a line or two of poetry would not be a true Rabbi Shanks service. On Musar, meditation, deep wells of quiet thought you drew from for us to grow our spirit. On delivering sermons, speaking slowly, you weave words until we find that emotions are real, and now we must change. And finally, a cinquain that will lead us into our next prayer, Yismechu. On Shabbat. Shabbat joy, Yismechu. I love the moment when silent prayer begins. Eyes close, smiles lift. We continue with Yismechu on page 44. for healing, and it's auspicious at times of communal gathering and at times of great joy when we feel like our cup of life is simply overflowing, to let that overflowing turn into prayers for healing, blessings for those who are in need of something a little more. Now, with such a large gathering, what we're going to do is embody that moment of the cup overflowing, and we're going to all share those names that need healing all at the same time. So it's going to be a little cacophonous, but I think that God will hear each and every name. Our prayer for healing is on page 253. And I will invite you to share any names that you're thinking of now. a complete and speedy healing to all those in need. We continue on page 47. In a moment, we'll enter into the words of the Amidah, which we'll pray silently. The words begin on page 46. We'll sing that together, and then you're welcome to read through the prayers of the prayer book through page 62, or to sit back down and meditate on the thoughts of your own heart. We read in the middle of page 47, prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. If you're able, I invite you to rise.
Oh, I invite now Rabbi Elka Abrahamson, President of the Wexner Foundation and friend and colleague of Rabbi Shanks.
So if you are thinking, she looks familiar, it's because I was just here. Well, it seems like just. It was at the end of November, 1992. Remarkably, Judy and I look almost the same as we did. That wasn't supposed to be funny. On the occasion of her rabbinic installation, when I spoke here, except maybe our hair, because we both were curly. Recall on that night, you all remember, I said, quote, "We have something in common. We share a rabbi, Judy Shanks. And I said, you and I are lucky to have her. Little about that has changed, except that tonight we all are the luckier for having merited the bracha, the blessing, of calling Judy Shanks our rabbi for so many years. You sensed it that autumn Shabbat. You can confirm that blessing with an unbridled amen on this spring Shabbat more than a quarter of a century later. On this Shabbat, we send you off in the footsteps of our ancestors into the unpredictability of life's next chapter. The word for retire in Hebrew is prisha. The same root is found at the center of the word meaning separation or chapter as in parsha. Doesn't that capture this exact moment, Judy? Tonight we celebrate your rabbinate and welcome you, if a bit reluctantly, to the opening of your next parsha. And how exquisitely in sync you are with Jewish time. This week we find within the carefully calligraphed columns of the Sefer Torah a pause, a block of intentionally empty parchment. Now what? A deep cleansing breath, and then we continue. The text tells us, into Bamidbar, the parsha of our wandering. This fourth book of Torah finds the children of Israel facing the unknown, navigating the unpredictable. Usually translated as wilderness, the Midbar is a place of vast wonder and surprising growth. The wilderness is the place our ancestors came to know the essence of Judaism, discovering what Rabbi Shanks has taught this remarkable congregation with every fiber of her being. Even when you are not exactly sure where you are going, or tremble at the thunder, or fear certain failure, even when your footing is uncertain, your faith shaken, hear the voice of this rabbi assuring you, you are not alone. You are part of a hopeful and holy community, a kahila kedusha. Kedusha, her voice will forever echo in this sanctuary. Sacred connections are to be found in any place where our hearts feel empathy, our eyes open to wonder, our ears are attentive to the other, our lips cry out for justice, and our arms hold up the weak. In the Midbar, we learn what Rabbi Shanks has been teaching for decades. Schlep with you a bundle of holy heart, open eyes, listening ears, speaking lips with you on life's journey wherever you go, because that is our unwavering obligation as beings created B'Tselem Elohim, in God's image. Bamidbar is chanted at the very end of the Omer, and the countdown is nearly complete. We read a sojourn into an unmapped space, immediately before Shavuot, when we celebrate the giving and receiving of Torah. It was in the wilderness that our ancestors encountered the divine at a humble mountain called Sinai. We stood there together, all of us, and there we discovered that an encounter between a human being and the Eternal One can also occur at any time, as long as you carry with you that personal parcel of holy possibility Rabbi Shanks has gifted to you. Judy? Judy, you possess, I'm not looking at you. You possess the unique ability to give each of us just what we need for our sacred life treks. You, with Jamie at your side, gave to Temple Isaiah, V'chol levavech, nafshech, with all of your brilliant soul, uvachol meodech, with all of your never to be underestimated might. The sages tell us that the divine voice came to Moshe in the wilderness, of all places, because anyone who does not make herself open like the wilderness cannot acquire wisdom and Torah. You, my friend, are perfectly suited to take in and give away that wisdom. You, my teacher, have guided so many through occasions painful and joyful. You have modeled openness and wisdom. You have made Torah accessible to thousands. Rabbi Shanks is my chavruta. Together we learn, we write, we rewrite, and we rewrite again, and we think, and we plan, we commiserate, consult, and we celebrate. We literally finish each other's sentences. In fact, she wrote this. Judy always urges me to conclude high holiday sermons with, quote, apples and honey. Close with the sweetness of honey, she repeats to me year after year after year after passing year. On Shavuot, it is also custom to enjoy honey, a reminder of Torah's sweet words. How fitting. Judy and Jamie, may the Prisha, your new chapter, be filled with love. May you be sustained by your community. May you quell over your children, and may you enjoy apples and honey with your grandchildren year after year after year after passing year. Let us together welcome our Rabbi Judy Shanks to this bima with a blessing, thanking God that she has guided us on her way, that she has given to you, to Temple Isaiah, all you need to move forward. And this blessing that I wrote for you will be chanted by the cantor, and then together we'll say the English if we can get it up on the screen.
Baruch atah Adonai, al shenatata lanu et matnat harava v'hamorah hazot, hamanhiga v'hechemana hazot, yedida v'kol, ledor shalem b'chilatenu.
And I'm going to invite you to say this with just wholehearted energy, but I want Rabbi Shanks to watch you say this, so I'm going to invite her to stand with me. So I want you to read it with feeling. Read it back. Ready? Blessed are you, Holy One, for giving us the gift of this rabbi and teacher, this leader and wise one, this friend and voice for a generation in our congregation. And let us say a honey sweet. Amen.
Isn't she amazing? I want you to know that Rabbi Abrahamson taught me the shul class. That's I knew it was a risk asking Rabbi Abrahamson to preach before me. It's like having little children sing a song in front of me. Thank you. I love you. And before I preach, I want this service to include what can only be a very inadequate expression of love and gratitude to the person who most helped me be the rabbi I am, though there are so many in this room that made me the rabbi I am. Maybe I shouldn't do this yet. Jamie Gracer. I could not, literally could not, have done any of this without your love, your wisdom, your being the best dad and grandpa in the world, your psychiatric consults, and your connection to the people of this synagogue. Quite simply, but with a lot of complexity, you're the best. Shabbat. I love you. You won't be surprised to know that I grew up with a rabbi who loved telling stories. Every Sunday at Sunday school, he literally hopped and danced around the bima, regaling us kids with the cliff-hanging adventures of Temple Tommy and Synagogue Cynthia, Jewish incarnations of the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. You see, Tommy and Cynthia lived in the choir loft in our synagogue and saved the community time and again by hunting down missing menorahs on the eve of Hanukkah and unleashing the tekiah of a stopped-up shofar just in time for Rosh Hashanah. We kids couldn't wait from week to week for the next exciting installment. When decades later, I had the mournful honor of eulogizing Rabbi Plotkin at his funeral, I saw generations of his beloved students light up at the mention of these fictional friends brought back to life through stories. It's always the stories we remember. It's the stories that draw us in and keep us listening. It's the stories that break open our hearts. It's the stories that stay with us. Judaism gets this. Every generation finds its place in a story that began long before us and will continue long after we're gone. A Jew is never alone. We're always linked to one another, connected across space and time by our family memoir, the Torah, and all the stories that follow in its wake. And now, on this last, most beautiful and oh so precious Shabbat with you. Tonight, it's the stories that fill me up and make me cry. It's the stories that fuel the abiding and boundless gratitude that I hold for the privilege of being your rabbi. It's the stories I remember, your stories, my stories, especially all the ones we shared quietly from a place of deep mutual trust. Just the two of us. I and them. And the ones we wrote very publicly and out loud. A group of diverse souls enlivening one another, challenging each other, bickering and chiding, encouraging and uplifting, creating stories that entwined our lives, stories that tracked our progress in building and inventing and then reinventing Temple Isaiah, our Kehillah Kedusha, our sacred Jewish community. Every day you and I live the stories that have now become a 26-year chapter of the Temple Isaiah family memoir. As I look out at your cherished faces tonight and relish how much we've experienced together, I wonder, which stories are you remembering right now? The Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai describes the sky over Jerusalem filled with prayers of every faith slowly wending their way heavenward. I imagine this sanctuary right now filled with the stories of all the memorable moments we have shared. So just for me, send a story heavenward right now. Fill this place with your stories. Here's one tale I don't think I've told you until now. It was August 1992, my first Shabbat at Temple Isaiah. You can only imagine how I labored mightily over my sermon. I actually talked about believing in God. What was I thinking? And I finished it up only late on Friday afternoon at home on a computer attached to something that many of you don't know. It was called a dot matrix printer. But it wouldn't print. No matter what we did, it wouldn't print. I ran up and down my block knocking on doors, hoping someone still had a typewriter, which I could bring home and type off the computer. Does everyone know what a typewriter is? There were none left on my block. At the 11th hour, my brother-in-law, Louis, somehow figured out which evil lock had been activated and released it. Thank you, Louis. None of us had dinner that night, and I found out we actually left my sister Vicky and Louis at home and drove off. So I apologize. But you got your sermon. And now you all believe in God, which is so fast forward to 2002. When a team of clergy and lay leaders and lots of generous people in our community spearheaded the rebuilding of this sanctuary. Together we turned our dreams into blueprints and as judiciously as possible made all the design decisions that created a holy space whose beauty still takes my breath away. And now Hamakom outside these windows sanctifies our outdoors as well. My heartfelt thanks to you for this perfect tribute. I'm so glad it will not only be a sacred place for now, but will mark Simcha's well into Temple Isaiah's future. In some of those early sanctuary planning meetings, we debated if and what to describe on our Aron HaKodesh, this ark with its glass through views of our Sifrei Torah, and during the day you see majestic Mount Diablo beyond. We considered the Talmudic phrase found on arks throughout the world. Da lifnei mi ata omed. Know before whom you stand. An admonition to be acutely and constantly aware of God's presence. Ultimately, we chose words from the Psalms, Or zaruo la tzadik, light is sown for the righteous, to remind us that prayer should prompt us to righteous action. Yet as I imagine this moment, tonight, this moment, it was as if Da lifnei mi at omedet were emblazoned on the ark. With God to strengthen me, I stand here before you, as I have stood literally thousands of times before. But unlike that very first Shabbat, I do now know before whom I stand. I even know where you usually sit. I know how often you are here. I know what brings you back and what keeps you away. And with you, I remember with love and sadness those who are missing now forever from their favorite seats, because together we tearfully laid them to rest. And your yard sites became mine as well. Yes, after all these years, I know your names, mostly, your faces, your family histories, your troubles, your questions, your kvetches, your celebrations, and your yearnings. And you, my beloved ones, you know mine. Not much stays hidden as the years unfold and multiply. We have witnessed each other's strengths and foibles. We have changed each other's lives and the culture and history of this synagogue. We've grown up and grown kind of old together. We have been blessed and blessed each other. Is it any wonder that it's hard to say goodbye? I've stood here thousands of times, but like that very first Shabbat, this last one stands out from all the rest. And I say, Shehech Yinani, by the grace of God, we are alive tonight to celebrate both what has been and what will yet be. Thank you, my dear Isaiah colleagues. For crafting words and music to help us feel and navigate these powerful emotions. You have uplifted us, enabling us to soar, as the Torah says, as if on eagle's wings. From that exalted height, we apprehend the true beauty of each soul in this sanctuary, their spark of the divine glowing brightly. Someone asked me last night, what are those big beams for? And I said, I don't know. But actually, I think they're meant for us to imagine ourselves up there, perched on high and looking, as tonight, on this community gathered in its strength, perched up high and seeing this so that it makes us want to shout out again from the Psalms, Hine ma tov u'ma-na'im. It is good to be here together. It is the best to be here together. And from our imaginative perch in those rafters, we realize that this Shabbat, for all its awe and singularity, is ultimately but one exquisite pearl on the infinite strand, created when God first rested on the first seventh day. And from up there we know that next Shabbat, next week, another pearl will be added, and the next, and the next, each inviting us into the entrance of hours of holiness and peace. Da lifnei mi ata omen. No matter where we stand, no matter who stands here next, God will surely sanctify this community and all the wonderful stories still to be written in our Jewish neighborhood. Yes, we are commanded to stand in mindful awareness before God and one another. Tomorrow night on Shavuot, we will stand again at Sinai. We answer that call to stand, but we cannot ever stand still. We cannot ever stand still. After Sinai, we march to the promised land. After prayer, we rush to pursue justice. The flow of life is always unruly, untamable, and unpredictable. It is a midbar, a wilderness. And much as we hate to admit it, we often learn our greatest lessons when we rise up to meet the challenges presented by surprises and upheavals. When we dare to traverse the sometimes scary distance between the unknown and the known, between the cliffhanger and the resolution, we deepen our trust in God, in ourselves, in our community, and in the enduring values of Judaism that steady and guide us always across every narrow bridge. Da lifnei mi at omenet. I know before whom I stand. My beloved family, friends, and dear colleagues, this holy blessed community of Temple Isaiah that I love and will always be part of. I am beyond grateful and honored that we could write so many chapters of history together. And I can't wait to see what happens next. How about you? Shabbat Shalom.
When I meet with Rabbi Shanks in her office, I always sit in the same chair. And she sits in her unspoken assigned seat as well. Some of you have probably sat in that chair also. Our seats are arranged in such a way that she, in her selfless way, has given me the chance to delight in the beautiful backdrop of a window with trees and the delightful entrance to the Gonalon playground, while she looks at, well, a wall. That office has become a sort of sanctuary for me. I have come to find great comfort sitting across from that warm smile and those sincere eyes and those attentive ears. Just over the rabbi's left shoulder, I delight in all of the pictures on her shelf. Pictures of her friends and family at significant moments in their lives. And yes, occasionally my eyes tend to drift, but I always find great delight to see the blessings that shine back at me when I see the joy that Rabbi Shanks has in her life. Joy that will surely increase in her blessedly earned retirement. But amidst all of those pictures and photographs, you might be able to see it from here, is a Hebrew quote that I also find great delight in when I let my eyes alight there. It is this quote from Pirkei Avot. Aseh lecha rav, u'kaneh lecha chaver. Find yourself a teacher, and you will acquire a friend. To be honest, when I was interviewing for my first position, I simply wanted to find a rabbi who liked cantors. And I would have been thrilled to find one who would mentor me, continue to foster my love of Judaism, and help me to set down roots as my branches began to grow. Dayenu, that would have been enough. And yet, when a rabbi understands her role as a teacher, a mentor, encourager, supporter, and nurturer, she gives of her soul and heart in such a way that surely the relationship transforms. As Rabbi Joshua implied, you end up with a friend. Of course, I know that this experience with Rabbi Shanks is not uniquely mine. This room is full of individuals and families who sought a rabbi and gratefully gained a friend. I, for one, have indeed acquired a friend, a sermon collaborator, a fellow lover of words, a partner and an inspiration, and someone who encourages me to dream big. What a blessing. Tonight, as we send you on the next leg of your journey, Cantor Becker and the choir join me in expressing our gratitude for fanning the flame that is the creative spark within each of us. And with love and honor, we offer this to you. A teacher, a scholar, a leader, a mentor, pursuer of justice, pursuer of peace. To challenge, inspire, to help us reach higher. The work is not done, and the work will not cease.
And the legacy of a rabbi is a gift that does not end. When you say this is my rabbi, you can say this is my friend. Someone who counsels, someone who comforts,
Someone who guides us to find our own voice.
someone who teaches that life has its seasons, a time that we mourn and a time we rejoice.
And the legacy of a rabbi, over time it will transcend. When you say this is my rabbi, you have made a lifelong friend. Blessings and gratitude for the times you have been there. And in the name of the one who taught us Torah, Lahavedon et kol ha'adam lechaskud.
In the name of the one who taught us Torah,
We will try to live our lives with justice and with truth. Aseh levarach, u'keneh levachaver. Blessings and gratitude for the times you have been there. Aseh blessings and gratitude as we offer our prayer. A teacher,
a scholar,
a leader,
a mentor,
pursuer of justice,
pursuer